Whoops. Okay, can you guys hear me? Let me know, because last time there was like a sound issue. Okay, good. Let some more people come in. Whew. Okay, so I only had one question that was submitted before ahead of time, but I get this question a lot. And that is when you start seeing sequences of numbers everywhere. So this question is asked all the time. So our brains are wired to recognize pattern. So when we first start awakening, you are now paying more attention to everything around you instead of just being oblivious and you're asleep and in a fog. And one of the first things you start noticing are number sequences and synchronicities. And so it's not uncommon that your brain picks up on patterns and you start noticing things more. And I got really into like seeing patterns of numbers and trying to read into them, but in the end, they really didn't mean much. Having said that, my favorite number that I tend to notice a lot is 44. So, and I just parked somewhere the other day, and of course, it was right in front of a pylon that said 44. But you'll drive yourself nuts trying to figure out, you know, if the numbers mean anything. And when I go into other dimensions, numbers are nowhere. There's no numbers anywhere. So I think numbers and math and all that is very much a construction of the 3D reality. So you just start paying attention more and you're going to start noticing more sequences. And then people start noticing coincidences. And then they start noticing animals staring at them and things like that. So it's just part of the process of becoming more aware. So I hope that doesn't disappoint people, but yeah, I tried to read into it a lot too, and it just got me nowhere, just like in a big loop-de-loop. So what I want to talk to you about today. So if you saw my message on Patreon, around the autumn equinox, I had a huge heart expansion. And then we have a chakra that's here. It's above your heart. And I've had it activated once before, but the energy was so intense that my body couldn't adjust to it. And I kind of knocked back down. So that's what happens a lot. If a chakra starts opening and you can't handle the energy, either because health-wise or emotional maturity-wise is most of the time why we can't go right into a full-blown Kundalini awakening, is because we have very our emotions are very immature and spiritually immature, you know. So I've now been in this. So what happens, this chakra, now I talked about how I received a light pillar. So that is part of the process. And I received the vertical one. And so this chakra that opens here, people are calling it different things, dimensional chakra or whatever. This one is a horizontal light beam. And so we don't know much about what is going on. I know that we are going to a 13 chakra system. So there's a lot of people are saying 12, but I did receive, and I wrote all this down. So I tell people in sessions when they're starting to getting downloads, or you're having interactions where you feel like it was a dream, but you know that it was more than a dream and all that, to write it down. Sleep with a notebook next to you and a pen. And even if it doesn't make sense to you, and a lot of these messages are cryptic, or these experiences, you don't know what they mean. I am so glad that I wrote down everything for years and years and years, because now it's all making sense. So these openings I was having and the experiences and sounds that come along with them are the new chakras that are opening. And I'm just now, so that's how I work. I receive it, things happen to me, then I try to confirm it. So when they were happening to me, there was not any information. So I said, okay, I'm going to sit with it. Now there's information. Other people have experienced these new chakras. I think they're dormant. We used to have them at one time, but they went dormant. And now the information is in there, and it's the same time frame. It all happened in 2016, which was a year I thought I wasn't going to survive. But they're all saying now that they were going through this in 2016. So the new chakra, this 13 chakra system that we're all going to where everyone is then going to go back to being these interdimensional, and we won't feel like we're so separated and cut off. It's probably going to take several generations for it to eventually to be Earth, the entire Earth. Because not everyone's going to be open to receiving this new system. I mean, you meet people every day that they're just not interested in evolving in this cycle, and they'll just come back and do it another time. So years ago, I received a set of keys. So when I say this is all holographically. And it was just gold in a circle with the number 13 in the middle. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. And so now when I'm finding other people that know or have gone through the 13 chakra, receiving those, they said they also received a set of keys. And either the key said 13, I had a keychain, so it did involve keys. So that's what we're going towards. And I'm so glad that I wrote notes, because I'm going to be able to share it with all of you where these new chakras are, how I experience them, and the sounds that came along with them. I don't have any colors. I know people love colors to go with their chakras. And I am extremely clairvoyant, but there was no color associated with them. There was sound. So I can at least share that with you. So this dimensional chakra, so it is a light that comes along this way. That's been open for, God, I don't know how many days now, but it was really hard for me to function. My heart space was super open, and it was more of a state of, I know people think it's like love, and I never have described it like that. It's euphoria, and it is a total connection with everything. And so I'm very sensitive to everything right now. And I thought, oh my God, should I do this live Q&A? Because I cry very easily now. The compassion that I have at this moment is off the charts. So I don't know if anyone can feel it. I feel like this energy is kind of cascading the planet right now. And if you're not open to it, you'll feel it somewhere else. And so I was noticing people too, when there's a lot of people that are resistant to their heart space, and either they feel like they don't deserve that feeling, they're unfamiliar with it, or they just resist it. And so they go into their solar plexus, where that's where we keep our immature emotions. And so I was getting a lot of people stomping their feet, and when I challenge belief systems that they can't get out of, they attack me. And so that's people that are like that leave comments or want to go into attack mode. They're in their lower chakras, and it's around that solar plexus area. And I was resistant to it in the past too. I wasn't raised in a real loving home. So I didn't know what that feeling was like. And all I can explain it to is if you've ever fallen like head over heels in love with someone, and you are in the greatest mood and nothing can bother you and nothing that they do is wrong and the world is great. Okay, that is how you feel all the time. And so the first time this happened to me, I couldn't stay in it for very long because I just wasn't there yet. And it's really hard on your body. It's very high energy. So I did end up, I have, my throat is swollen right now, and I'm not surprised because that is in the area where this energy is flowing in. So I have to take a drink of hot tea. So I also wanted to talk, I don't know if there's any questions or if anybody is saying, yeah, it is, yeah, you could say it's bliss. It's just, and when I'm in this state, it's really good to go out in the public, because when you hold that energy and you just walk among other people, it really affects the environment. And so I had already scheduled to go with my daughter to Disneyland. I look super funky right now, sorry. And I said, okay, well, I'm still going to go. And I was walking into the park, and there was this little girl, and she was probably, I don't know, 3 years old. And she had like the most beautiful dark brown skin, and she was dressed like Cinderella. And I just looked at her. And so the way that I connect with people, sometimes I for some reason, I have to connect with them. It's like my free soul pushes me, and my free soul comes out maybe, I don't know, 3 inches, and I have to stumble towards these people. And I had such this overwhelming love for this little girl. And I just had to tell her how beautiful she was. And I just kept thinking in my mind, I hope she grows up feeling that she's beautiful. And it took so much of me not to cry. So I do that with people sometimes, and that's why they call it falling in love. I've done that a couple times in my life. And we associate it with, there's a relationship going to happen out of this, or a sexual relationship or whatever. But when you get to this point where you have this heart center open, and it has something to do with this dimensional chakra, probably emphasizes the connection. You fall in love with everybody, and things, animals or whatever. And so it is a true falling in love. And there's no agenda behind it. Sometimes we fall for people or whatever. There's an agenda. You want to be in a relationship or things like that. There was no agenda. And so that's where we're going or we're supposed to be going as humanity, because, we can't hurt each other if we feel that way for each other. And so then we leave and I see like homeless people, sleeping under a bus, whatever you call those, where you wait for the bus. And then that made me cry, and it's just like, how did we get there? So yeah, I'm not typically, in my videos, I'm not typically like, lovey, whatever, but this opening, that this energy that came in, man, it just blasted me wide open. So that's where I am now. And it also was coincidentally came when I had an energetic merge with a being. It was like a day or two before. So I want to, if you guys are okay with it, I don't know how many of you are watching the tarot course and how I talk about the fetch. So I want to talk to you about the fetch and what the purpose of it really is. So we're going through a time now where we are activating each other. I was activated. I call him my volunteer associate, or he's my evolutionary mate. And I believe we did come here to trigger each other and cause the evolutionary process to start to begin. And so that happened. And I kept going, and he tried, and then it just was too much for him. So, and we still talk, and he knows what's going on. So when we separated, then I had my fetch came in and basically took the place of the physical evolutionary mate that I was supposed to do this process with. And so what the fetch is, if you've ever had this energetic being, usually when I talk to people, the first manifestation is this, it's a light being. And it's emanating unconditional love. It will call you like beloved, or you just feel like there's nothing I could ever do that make this being not love me. It's like nothing you felt in the human realm. That's the kind of love I've been feeling the last couple of days. And so what it really is, this being that you attracted to you, is because you are ready for the evolutionary process. And I've also talked to others, like I did when I first, I was kind of entranced with it, like because I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know why this being was sitting on my bed and touching my face. And then I realized after I felt this love or whatever, I'm like, oh my God, there's a being on. Then it hit me like there's this being on my bed. And so I swatted at it, and it just flew away. And other people I've been saying too, they tell it to go away and all that, because we don't know, we've lost this information. And so if a being has come to you, and this is why shamans and witches and whatever always had these helpers, is because I do believe that when you come in as a shaman or a helper, or if you resonate with a volunteer, that you come to assist society. And so you do have these beings that are assigned to you or will help you through the process. But we are, there's so many of us here now in mass that there's a lot of people are going to start experiencing these beings. And there's also, there's volunteers before they incarnated, and then there's going to be volunteers where they say, I'm ready, I'm going to volunteer now, I'm ready for the evolutionary process. And you can try to contact your fetch. So how you can build that, I am going to give, after the tarot course, I'm going to give a ritual of how to contact it or build that contact between them. But you have to clear out your issues You have to have emotional maturity, and you have to have self-discipline. And I know I say that all the time, but this energy is so intense that if you don't do those things and you have these energetic merges with your fetch, or I'm getting other beings now that are coming in and having merges with me. This last one was not, I didn't consider this being my fetch, but it really stimulated that dimensional chakra that's up here. And that's what they do. So the energetic merges are for your evolution and for you to be able to remember that you are a multi-dimensional being. And so it is scary. And it's like if you've ever watched the veterinarian shows where they take these animals to the veterinarian and they're terrified, but they don't know that this veterinarian is there to help them. And they're poking them and doing all these things to them, and then they get better. So it's the same type of thing. Humans, we don't know what's going on. These higher beings are trying to help us, but we fight it because it is so bizarre and scary, and energies merges and stuff. So we're not in the same level of consciousness as these beings. So I think more and more people are going to have these types of contacts, and that's why I want to talk about them more. So I know a lot of you are interested in that. So these beings are here for to help assist in stimulating your Kundalini energy, opening your chakras. They will assist you until I don't always need my fetch to fly or go interdimensionally. In the beginning, you need, because you have no idea what you're doing or where you're going. And I was told I don't need mine all the time now to go travel. And just as I got maybe like 2 months ago, and I know it's another Disney song. I posted the Pocahontas one. But if you've ever received a song, like you woke up and you have a song playing in your head, that's usually from your fetch or a being that's trying to help you. And so about 2 months ago, and I'm not into Disney, so just to let you know, my daughter is. I received the song from Aladdin, A Whole New World. So I'm not going to talk about it here, but if you read the words to that song, it's exactly what a fetch does for you. They show you a whole new world. They take you flying. Sometimes in the beginning, I felt like it was, if you've ever watched people who jumps out of plane, you're tandem, you're like strapped together. And that's kind of how I felt. And we even landed like that. It's like you would if you were a parachute and you were landing and stuff. But they are kind of, it's a tandem thing until you learn how to do it on your own. So read those words, and that might even draw you in more. And the whole thing is so much of how a fetch would speak to you, that they're going to take you flying and show you this whole new world and know when to tell you where we can or cannot go, like here. So I thought that was really interesting, but yeah, I hadn't even seen the movie or anything like that. So when I read the words, I was just like overwhelmed. So read the words to that song, and that will give you an idea of how the fetch talks to you. And it's very unconditional, this love that it emanates. But you will start going through Kundalini activation, your chakras opening, and it's not an easy process, but it's for your benefit. So kind of like how I talk about the veterinarian taking care of the animal. It doesn't know that it's helping it. So that's a little bit more of what the fetch is. Or, you can call it your guardian angel, if that makes you feel better. And it doesn't have to be, something witchy or anything like that. Humans, we all have the ability to make this contact. But most humans don't know that. So you have to open the line of communication, and they will never leave you. Like when I swatted at mine and then I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? It knows that you don't know what the hell's going on. So don't worry, you can't lose the connection. And when mine came back, I couldn't see it anymore because I think it thought that freaked me out. So you feel it. So it's like a human touching you, but you can't see anything. It's I don't know how to explain it. You just know, you can feel them, the weight of them on your bed. You can feel them touching you and everything. So I think that it kind of cloaked itself because I freaked out so much the first time. But just know that it is here to assist you, and it's part of what we are going through now as humanity. Again, there's en masse people waking up because we are in an evolutionary period. So I don't know. Does anybody have any more questions about the fetch or anything? Just ask me questions. Or does anyone want to share if they've had? Okay, so it depends. So Margaret's asking, can a fetch work with a married couple, or do each of us have to have our own fetches? So this gets really, really down to how you incarnated. So if you came here as a team and you agreed that you're going to help each other evolve, you can share a fetch. You would be the only one to know if you resonate with that. That when you first met your husband, did you stimulate each other's kundalini? And are you having, when you do touch bodies or whatever, are you merging, and your second skin or your light bodies, are they intertwining and things like that? And actually your fetch can join you while the two of you share your bodies. Sometimes your fetch comes in and you can actually feel like there's three people and you don't know who's who. I've had that happen before too. So yes, you can share a fetch for sure. It just depends on how you incarnated and what your agreement was. Yeah. So yeah, and I know this sounds beautiful, but way beyond where you are right now. Yeah. If I, again, like I said, if I would listen to me, like, I'm going to say, like, when my Kundalini was activated in 2004, but I really didn't know what was going on. It's like if in 2008, if somebody was talking like this, I'd be like, she needs to be medicated and put in a padded room. But this information has been suppressed. And I believe if you resonate with Rumi, when I read Rumi, I don't think Rumi is talking about another person. I think he is talking about his fetch, because that is how the love is between this being and you. It's that kind of love. And humans haven't felt that kind of love in a long time. We get into relationships more from our solar plexus. So let me explain this. So when you get out of your lower chakras, so usually when we meet someone, we get butterflies and it's all down here and it's emotional. That's not really where we need to be. And that's where humanity has been for God knows how long. That we think because we feel something in our stomach and it's kind of exciting, that is very, that's more like lusty. It's not up here. You think it's up here, but if your solar plexus is involved, that's where we feel jealousy, longing, if they break up with us and we start crying and, we act like we're teenagers and stuff like that's all coming from the solar plexus. And so with this evolutionary process, we're getting out of that. And we're only in the future, we're not connecting with our lower chakras, and I'm not bashing on men, but men usually look at a girl and if they're attracted to him, the first thing they think of is, how am I going to get my penis in her? So that's going away. That's not how we're going to connect anymore. We're not going to connect first with our lower chakras, lust and sex and all that. That's going away. That's like Animal Planet. The how we're going to, as a society, or not as a species, okay, this is still going to be generations from now. We are going to connect with people first here on a spiritual connection, love connection, or whatever, then sexually attracted to them and chemistry and all that. It's not going to be the other way around. And that's why there's so much pedophilia and rape and all that, is because all that we've been relating to other people have been in our lower chakras. And so that's just not working. That is the main problem in our society, is that everyone's stuck in their lower chakras. And that's why people act like 3 or 4 year olds that, when they don't get their way, they stomp their feet and they cry and they scream and, and it's just not, it's not how we're going forward. That's all I have to say. We have to get out of the lower, operating in lower chakras. So. Yeah, if you are and I know that your name's not Amber Visions, but yeah, so because a lot of people freak out. I mean, would you freak out? You wake up and something's touching you and you're so like in and out, and then you open your eyes and there's this light being on your bed, and I don't care if it's radiating love, it freaks you out. So yeah. So a lot of the times when they come in, I think they're going to come in a little more gentle. So maybe you'll feel the feeling. And if you feel the feeling, try talking and connecting. I mean, it's all done. You don't have to say it out loud, but just try to connect. If you want it to come in a more solid form, that's something that you can do. But it is very uncomfortable in the beginning because it's so freaky and bizarre, and you wonder if it's real. And I don't know what else to say about it, but it's a true thing. And I'll try to think of like more people are saying too, and I forget, there's a Song of Solomon or something, and it is really talking about this fetch or whatever in the Bible, talking about that experience of feeling that. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Bible, but I think it is very, if you read into it, it's very sexual. And yeah, I'm just over the Bible for now, at least. Yeah, Mel, Chris, yeah. So everybody, they say the dream state. So when you're having a dream, there's like a storyline to it. It feels like it's going on forever and da da da. And then when you're having an actual interdimensional experience, I don't call that a dream. I don't call it a dream state. And so you know the difference between a dream where you're like playing out, there's usually some kind of storyline to it, and that kind of, but when you're having something like that, that is an actual experience. And when you really start developing your second skin, or your light body, or your etheric body, people call it, you can actually physically feel all this. And you can feel energy if you felt energy on your temples. Yeah, so you probably had an actual experience. But again, the energy is so intense with your fetch, and then after your fetch, other beings will even start coming in to assist. That's why I'm so emphasizing right now is to get healthy if you need to. Start really getting your body healthy, and no plant medicine, no alcohol, go for walks. You don't have to be like a weight trainer or anything like that, but your body is going to be experiencing tons of energy surges. And if you're not healthy, it's going to cause issues. That's all I have to say. So really get your body in shape. Deal with your unconscious issues. Self-discipline. I don't know if you've done a mantra, but that helps teach you self-discipline, but it also brings up your unconscious issues. So all that is part of the evolutionary process. And anything that's stored in your chakras, you have to get through those lower ones first. And there's tons of stuff in there: childhood issues, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, programming, religion. That's all in your lower chakras. And so all of that needs to be cleaned out. And then even when you start going up, your heart chakra, if you've, mad at an ex-boyfriend or a girlfriend, you have to come to terms with all of that kind of stuff. So you have to constantly work on it. They're there to assist you. And sometimes, like with this being, it did something that triggered that dimensional chakra back open, because it felt like I was ready. So if you're having these surges and everything, it's because they feel like you're ready. Now, it did cause my throat to swell up, and it's kind of sore and things like that, but not enough to debilitate me or make me lose my voice or anything like that. So that's why it's so important, the body physical, is because you're going to be running tons of energy through your body. And the healthier you are, the less you put drugs and chemicals and crappy food in your body, the less you do of that, the better. And the easier that you're going to be able to process the energies. Your body is so important. And I know that especially in New Age, they don't really focus on the body too much. They actually kind of hate the human body because they just want to escape and just do spiritual stuff. But your body is how you're going to evolve and how you're going to ascend. It's going to all happen in your physical body. So you have to really take care of it. And that's why I've been emphasizing that lately, is because these energies are really, really ramping up. And because my chakras are open, I can feel when they're coming in. And it's open to anybody, these energies. But some people will choose not to accept them, either because they can't or they don't want to. And they just want to stay asleep, or they don't like the feelings that they actually have to feel, or they don't want to do the work. Humans are lazy. Let's just face it. I get lazy too. So it just comes with a lot of maturity, emotional maturity is the biggest thing. Yeah, visitations. Yeah, you can get I used to get visitations all the time from people that are deceased. And actually, you're able to see them in the physical. So I don't know if any of you people know, I haven't put this on the internet just because I don't want the relatives of these people I just don't want to put it out there because I know they have a granddaughter and some grandchildren, so it would just be weird. So I don't know if any of you are on the West Coast and you know of In-N-Out Burger, but I owned a store and I had this old couple come in, and he was talking to me probably like 20 minutes, and he was telling me he had an In-N-Out hat on, and he was telling me that he used to own a burger restaurant, and now his son is the CEO of In-N-Out, and blah da 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 da. And then all he kept saying was, "Do you like change?" He asked me that so many times. Are you okay with change? And 6 months later, my store closed, which I hadn't even planned on. And so I looked when I got home because the whole exchange was really, really weird. And so these are just like regular people. And he was with his wife, and she was off doing her own thing. She was just, tootling around. And I go home and I discover that they both died, him and his wife. And his son also died. So when I talked to him, when he died, his son was still alive. So his son died after they died. So his consciousness thinks that his son is still running In-N-Out because when he died, his son was. And then I read the history about how he started the hamburger stand and then his son took over CEO. So that really freaked me out, that I started to wonder, how many people do I see in physicality that are really dead? And so it was really, really hard for me. I had a friend with me at the time, and she was able to see them too. So I didn't make this up. She actually talked to the wife. So if you're with me and this interaction, whoever's with me can witness it too. It's happened with, if you've heard my story about the Black Panther that came right across my path, I was with the person I call my evolution mate. He witnessed it too. So if that doesn't freak you out when you go, okay, how many people am I really looking out, and how many people are dead, and how many are just like real people? So yes, you are multidimensional, and you will be able to act with people who are deceased, and they may be still reconciling their previous life. So, we don't, die and sprout wings and become all-knowing and everything. We still have to work out our previous life. And that's another thing that when was it yesterday or the day before, I started crying because first I thought I was dying, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die and I'm leaving. So I got over that, but then I cried because I was told this is my last incarnation. And where I was so happy, and I was saying, God, this planet is so beautiful. And then I said to myself, I'm not going to waste another day being mad at anybody or holding grudges. And I reconnected with people that I felt that there was maybe some things left unsaid. And I'm going to do the things that I want to do. and I'm going to go to the places that I want to see before I exit. And I still don't know. I feel like when it's time for me to exit, it's not going to be anything dramatic. I'm just going to go, and I'm just going to leave my body. So I've been dealing with that the last couple of days also. And I kept thinking, oh my God, it's going to happen in this week, you know? But I think it was just because this chakra was so wide open. And I have such a love for this planet. And I thought, oh God, if I never come back here, you know? And so I'm coming to terms with that. Yeah. So when this opens and everything, it is really, when you get into these 13 chakras opening everything, it will be your last incarnation, and you will not waste another day being mad at anybody, or if people are just being idiots, you just let it go, and you're just, you know, it's a really, really strange place to be, but it's also euphoric, but it's also kind of sad at the same time, because I love this planet so much. So anyway, that's just another thing I've been going through. Yeah, really try to, I don't know how many out there. Like I said, I live in California, so marijuana is legal and everybody's taking it. My parents take it to help them sleep. They take gummy bears or something. I don't know what it is. So it really does mess with your chakra system. It messes with your, God, why can't I think of it right now? I said it on the video. It's your whole electrical system. What is nervous system? It really messes with your nervous system. And alcohol is really bad for, God, I haven't had alcohol and I don't even know. But you'll actually be repulsed by alcohol. You'll get to the point where you just can't drink it. Or if you do, it takes you a long time to recover from it. But yeah, these addictions, we really need to wean ourselves from them. And yeah, plant medicine is one of the things, because it's been touted as being so spiritual, but it's not. It's just another drug. It's just like taking OxyContin or whatever, you know, it's no different. And they do take you into the astral realm, and the astral realm is like a garbage dump, and it's just thought forms and delusions. And I'm not, some people come back and they're like, oh, you know, but it's a delusion in some kind of way. I've listened to them and I'm like, yeah, just, they're not, they may be like really excited for a couple weeks and then they go back to their old ways. And I don't see anybody getting emotionally mature from plant medicine. They just, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's just not good for the human body to do it like people are doing it. Like this one woman I've read, she did it. She's done like 30 rounds, and I'm just like, oh. And she's not any better. She did it for health reasons, and her disease is still there. And you know, it's an inside job, and plant medicine can't help you deal with your unconscious issues. And you know, it's just another crutch or a distraction, really, is to help you deal with them. So yeah, the less you can do, and I know it's hard, because I know some people who every night it's their comfort thing, you know, they smoke a little pot. But if you can, you know, really try to cut down. Yeah, Chachanin. So I felt that way too. Okay, so there was videos that I watched maybe 4 years ago, and it resonated with me, but I just didn't get it. And like, I believed what they were saying, and but I just wasn't there yet. And now when I watch those videos, it was like, yeah, of course, I did that 2 years ago, and because I had forgot about, these videos. I don't watch YouTube much anymore. And it'll click. It will click. So you will understand what I'm talking about eventually. Even if you're not experiencing this, I think I was watching those videos because it was preparing me. And it actually will start opening your mind that this is a possibility. Because when I watched it back then, I was like, this sounds really crazy and fantastical, but I can see it, like, I'm open to that. And eventually, all those things eventually happened. I think it was like 2 years later. And I even forgot about those videos. So they'll resonate because it's that free soul part of you. It's probably the direction you're going. And people have always said too, especially when I was the peculiar daughter, I made videos, and then a year went by or whatever, and they would email me and go, oh my gosh, everything you talked about, yes, I'm experiencing them now, and blah, 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 blah. And I just didn't know what to think of what you were saying then. But it'll click. Everything will click eventually. And then you'll wonder, oh, who was that girl I used to follow or whatever? And it'll click. So there's a resonance there, is because this is the direction you're heading, but your consciousness just isn't there yet. Your free soul hasn't like completely taken over. Our breath souls are very, very strong. Our ego and all that, it's so strong. And to like flip it to where the breath soul takes the back seat and your free soul's in charge, it's a lot of work. So that's not unusual to feel that way, because I went through it too. Okay. So I don't know what else to talk about. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I kind of wanted to touch on the fetch a little bit more, just because that energy is really coming into me lately. Not just my own, but getting that knowledge out there, because I'm afraid what's going to happen, because I thought I was losing my mind, and the person I was with at the time thought I was going insane. There's going to be a lot of people, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are having these Kundalini awakenings, or these beings are visiting them, and they're sitting in mental health facilities thinking that they're insane, and they're being medicated because they're saying, these beings are coming to them. So I had to get through that, because I went the medical route, and I didn't say anything about beings or whatever. I was seeing holograms and having my out of body experience. But I knew not to say too much, but I wanted to make sure I didn't have a brain tumor, and I wanted to make sure like I wasn't getting cataracts. And so I wanted to rule out, because I was not spiritual. I didn't know anything about Kundalini. And the internet was like not very helpful back then. So I ruled out the medical issues, and I had to accept that it was something spiritual. And then I got pissed that we don't know this as being human. This should be something that we know about, that Kundalini and chakras, like I didn't know anything about that. That's something that we should just know growing up. And I'm sure if we were still an animist belief system and practicing animism and there was the local shaman and all that kind of, they could help you because this was just norm. This was just, yeah, this is what happens. But again, all this information has been suppressed, and, so many people are stuck in the Christianity mindset or organized religion mindset. And the closest thing that they ever talk about is guardian angels. And so, yeah, just that's why I want to talk about it more, is because I'm sure there's so many. I mean, I couldn't even tell my parents because I was afraid they were going to commit me. So, and you do, during the Kundalini experience, you do feel like you're losing your mind, and you're supposed to. So you're losing your old mind. You're losing your old mindset. It's just part of it. You will have a psychological break, and you will feel like you're going insane. And you just have to roll with it, or yeah, and stop trying to medicate it, and delay it. So when you're doing any type of medication or plant medicine, you're delaying your own awakening, and you're delaying your own process, Kundalini process and chakra. But it is scary, and it's freaky, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of emotions that we don't want to deal with, because we've all had some really shitty things happen to us. And we don't really want to deal with them. But the only way to get out of those lower chakras and really get this energy moving is to deal with those shitty things that happen to us and clear it out. It's the only way to spiritually grow, is you have to face those things and the secrets that nobody talks about. That even the closest people, like, I thought I had told that partner I was with everything. And then when I was doing, especially mantra, there was a lot of things that came up, and I'm like, God, how did I not remember that? And how did I not talk to that about him? Because I told him everything, but there were some things I had, these little secrets that I didn't reveal. Probably because I didn't want to, face them myself, or admit to them, or because it involved a parent. So I didn't want him to view my parent in a bad way, so there's all these like little things. If you're watching the tarot course, those last secrets that need to come up, and you need to address them. So yeah, it's not an easy process, and to get to this bliss state and this euphoria takes a lot of work. And I don't know how long I'm going to be in this state. Last time I wasn't in it very long, but I had a taste of it, but my environment at the time wasn't really conducive to it. Now it is. So I could spend, I don't know how long, but I can't cry at everything, so I think the key is that you can be in this state of euphoria and feel this connection. I don't like to say love, because human love involves like that, the lower, where you feel butterflies and, emotional thing. It's not emotional. It's you have euphoria. You feel such a connection to everything, but at the same time, you're detached. Like, you can look at it and you can feel empathy and you have love for it, but there's no attachment. Like, when we love something in the lower chakras, we have this attachment to it. There's no attachment. It's just, you just have this feeling. It's just amazing. So I hope I can stay in this feeling, but I don't know. I'll let you guys know. I'll keep you updated. Yeah, when you think back and the universe. So what happens is you start you connect the dots, and that's why I really, really emphasize to all of you, if you're not keeping journals, keep journals. if I didn't keep journals, I wouldn't be able to share with you these 13 new chakras, because I wrote down the feeling that I had, the sound it made, what happens when it opens. But at that time, I didn't know that this was a chakra that was opening. So, and you don't, because sometimes it happens at a time where you're too tired, or you just had this experience and you don't feel like, writing it down. But really, really self-discipline comes in. Write everything down. And I'll get words that are in another language, and I know it's Spanish or Latin or whatever, and I write it down and I look it up, because sometimes you'll get words that are not in English, but they make sense. Or you'll get a song, and so you have to go look up that song, because that's a message. So the messages are not, this is why sometimes I have an issue with channelers that are just like blah, 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 blah for like a half an hour, I've never experienced that. My messages are very short and kind of cryptic. They're in another dimension. But when I am in the other dimension with them, it's not as cryptic, and there's more of a communication. But it's never a super long conversation. And then I come back and I'm like, why didn't I ask that? But that's my human thing. But when you're in your free soul and stuff, you're in a different state of consciousness. And so you come back and you're like, well, why didn't I ask that? That was my human wanting to know all those things. So, yeah, you'll just make sure you write down everything. That's all I have to tell you. And then you'll start connecting the dots, and then it'll just click, and you'll go, wow. Like running into somebody, like I would run into people. There's no way that it could have been a coincidence, and when I'm being told to go somewhere, it's like everywhere I looked, this town was coming up, or I go into a doctor's office and I just pick up a magazine, I open it, and that town is right there. So it's just those kind of things. Pay attention to, and just write everything down. And I swear to you, you'll connect it all someday. And if not, you're going to wish that you wrote it all down. And make sure that you put the year, because I'm looking at journals now and I'm like, oh my God, what year was it? Because I have so many. And so you think you're going to know, but you don't. So make sure you write the year. Because I just filled up journals and journals and journals. And I'm so glad I did. So glad I did. So I'm going to be going over the 13 chakras, what you guys can expect. And I'm not the only one getting this information. There's not a lot out there, but it's so great when I find confirmation that others are experiencing this too. So we are going from 7 to 13. That will be the new, I don't know what they're going to call the new human. It's not going to be Homo sapiens. I don't know what they're going to be called. And that's also too why there's such mass migration happening right now. At periods when, and you can, I'm not making this up, this is scientific or whatever, anthropologists and archaeologists and all that. Whenever when we became Homo sapiens, it was a mass migration happening, and they were going everywhere and interbreeding with Neanderthal and whatever pockets of older species of humans. And so that's why right now we have such mass migration going everywhere, because that is what happens when evolutionary period is happening, because we're sharing genomes. So maybe this pocket of Europeans needs the genomes of who knows why. And it's happening everywhere. So it is part of the evolutionary process, is migration. And like my volunteer, whatever you want to call him, that we work on the etheric plane together, but in 3D, he can't handle it. So he's Mexican. So volunteers too, when you have like a mate or a lot of the times there's an age difference, and sometimes they're in different cultures or they're in different religions, is because you're working those out, because you're clearing it from those bloodlines or even the soul group you incarnated in. So there's a lot of sharing and cross-cultural things that are going to be happening because we are going through an evolutionary period, and it will break down. Again, that's why organized religion will start breaking down, because relationships will start where you can't only be with a person who's Muslim or Catholic, or you can't only just be African American and you have to marry an African American. So all these things are going to start getting blended, and because it needs to. That's how evolution happens. So it's just part of it. Okay. All right. Okay, so I've been on like an hour. So if anyone doesn't have any more questions, I'm going to get some more tea and relax. And I think that's it. If anybody doesn't have any more questions. But yeah, and my channel is, because I had that energetic merge and now all these chakras are, opening and going crazy. And I know it was very focused on animism, is because I was bringing that template back in. And when I had that merge with that being, I just thought, oh my God, I'm done. So that template's done. And I'm not going to stop talking about it, but now it's time to shift, now that I've anchored that along with you. And I'm sure there's other people that have anchored that template in, to where we're bringing that back, to see the planet as a living organism, and not just for our consumption and amusement and all that kind of stuff. That it is a living being, and what we do affects it, just like when it has a storm or an earthquake, it affects us. So we are bringing that back, and it is anchored. That's all I got. The message was like, it's anchored. So now there's been a little shift. So I don't know if I'm going to lose people or not, but yeah. And I seem to be now going back talking about when I was the peculiar daughter. So I'm going to be still talking about both. But I'm going to be talking about what things are going to be. And I know there's a lot in the new earth thing. It's not going to be a separate earth. We are creating the new earth as I'm talking to you. And the changes that we make, and people who decide to go along with the evolutionary process and go through their Kundalini awakening, bring on the 13 chakra template, you are playing a part in creating the new earth. Now, it will take generations before it will be to where we won't be like we are now. But we are creating it, and this is crucial. This is more important than anything right now. Is we're like the pioneers, if you want to see it that way, and it's going to take us to start making these needed changes. But there's still going to be opposition, because that's just the way it is. Most people are not awake. There's a very small percentage, but it's enough. There's enough of us here that are willing to play a part in it. And if you're watching me and on this live chat, that you are a volunteer, whether you volunteered before or now you are choosing to be a volunteer. And it's happening. And we are in the phase of creating this new earth. Now, the template that came in, and I keep forgetting I needed to make a video about this. There was a new like hologram that came in 2011. It was anchored in 2012. So that's what the whole 2012 hubbub was about. So I'll talk more about that probably in a YouTube video. But everything is very holographic and energy, you know, coming up through the earth, and holograms everywhere, floating around everywhere, if you could see it. But yeah, it's really exciting. And I know that as humans, we need to physically see these things. But if you allow yourself to evolve and work on your chakras and be really healthy and everything, you will start opening these other chakras, and you will begin to be able to start to see these things. And then you won't question it anymore. Because if I were you, I would be questioning it just listening to me. But it's really happening. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. Okay. All right. So that is it, I believe, for this evening. And this will be reposted a little bit. I think YouTube has to process it or something like that. And then I will put it on Patreon. All right. So thank you, everybody, for listening to me babble. I might do 2 live chats next month, only because I'm getting so much information coming in. So I'll see. All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.